I think a lot of these tools are becoming very, very addictive. Sort of like a slot machine where someone will type a prompt to build something and then they get a result that's like kind of there. And then they pull on the lever again and it's one more hit. Just one more prompt. I think it's very, very addictive. So in this video, I'm going to spend some time digging into how I've been trying to deal with this. And some of this may say more about me than it says about the tools themselves. I'm going to jump into what this looks like for me. You create a plan, you work on the thing, you fix it, and then you go do it again, you fix it, and then like these are all individual prompts. You can imagine, you're going about your day, you have like maybe like 7 of these different things going on, right? The problem that I think exists with some of these tools is that you sort of don't know how long this space is going to take to finish. It could take 5 minutes, it could take 10 minutes, it could take 20 minutes, and it could take 6 hours, it could take a lot longer. And these boxes like really do represent a problem because you don't really know when you should come back to the thing, and I think that's like quite a big problem. So what this looks like for me personally, I think this is a big problem. I think there's like this like concept that I've been trying to think about to sort of spend less time at the slot machine. Deep work is essentially sort of like some big blocks of projects that you're working on, and shallow work might be like tickets, like fix the like move the button, change the button, and a lot of the skill I think has changed towards this sort of what I think is like this like plan, review, execute, review, and release stage. On the plan side, basically you write a plan and you come up with a plan. I have a skill called Grill Me. I think Matt Pocock has like a great set of Grill Me. There's another one which is Grill Me with Docs. And if you haven't checked out his stuff, it's great. I have another one that sort of takes whatever the output from that is, called Aaron Review. Aaron was an engineer that I used to work with and like used to produce like just like great documents. So I've named a skill after him, which produces this like really thorough investigation and research, and it puts it in a markdown in a repo. And then I have an execute skill, which is named Camilio after someone Camille that I work with, and just like hammers through work, does it for a long period of time, and then comes back and is like, surprise, I did everything. So that's the execute part. Then review is like 2-part. One is a critique, which uses a different model to sort of review the work that took place. And then code review is a sort of just a generic skill that does some code review. And the two sort of intermix with each other. So it'll do, I sometimes will critique the work first and then do a review. I'll sometimes critique and then spin it back in a loop to go basically like take the feedback from the critique and then do the review. And then it'll go through a release train. When I worked at Twitter and now X, we used to have these trains that used to go out, and I think it was like a good way. So like a release train will go out, it'll like send the commit, push it out, go through the CI/CD pipeline. It will go run a bunch of tests. It'll bump the version number if it makes sense, and all this other stuff that needs to happen. And at the end, you get this like PR that you can either review or do something with. And that's sort of the deep work process. And then shallow work, I'm just using through Symfony right now. I'll just have Symfony basically like pick up all the shallow work. All right, so I have Codex open here. There's some cleanup I need to do. I'm going to start on this Grill Me. So we're working towards this problem that I need to fix here, which is, can you put together a plan that will automate the changes? So when I submit a change in Jones SSH, it will, I need to update the test flight, so I need to go through that process. Can you help me do this? And just note that you're part of a mono repo here, so you'll need to figure out how to do this. If a change is made, I'd like to be able to sort of go through this process of updating the test flight with the new build when changes take place here. So that's like the ultimate goal. And then in the interim, I just want to update to the latest version. So First, let's start with coming up with a plan just to update the test flight with this latest build, and then next after that, I want you to go ahead and automate this. I've also started to... okay, so I could spend some more time on this plan, but I spend like more time on this than is... I would usually spend some more time on this. So let's go ahead and kick off this. So I just copy all this, put it in here, and then I tag the grill me skill. So what this is going to do is just gather like a bunch of context basically about what we're doing here, and it should come back and ask me like a slew of questions that are useful for this given task. I'm not sure if this is that easy to see, but you'll see that this is like a very, very small skill that just says, interview me relentlessly about every aspect of this plan until we reach this shared understanding. Walk down each branch, design tree, and just ask me some questions. And it is like an amazing skill. If I go to the errand skill, so if I go back, again, it's based on someone that I used to work with that I really thought was technically just brilliant. And so it does some work to go get like any of the data from the project. It does like this plan review mode. It has these like engineering preferences, how to think, like some cognitive patterns like state. And there's like a bunch of stuff in here that's probably easy to visualize if it wasn't. There's like some documentations of diagrams, model behavior nudges, and then like some steps. So like before reviewing anything, answer these questions, critically review this, like come up with an architecture plan, a decision framework, and just like a bunch of stuff that's just like very, very valuable to like make sure that like we have like a good breakdown of the task. So hopefully we can see this. So I am gonna show you how this works. Let me just jump out of this. And you can spend like a bunch of time just going through this, but it's very it's a very different behavioral pattern from it's a very different behavioral pattern from like fix that I mentioned like further down in here. So this is now at this state where it like has the plan looks complete enough to execute, but instead of it having, I don't have it execute, I'm gonna like run this now like error and review on this thing. So it's gonna create basically like a temporary file with the plan as it exists right now. Okay, so this is the plan that I come up with. It asks me some decisions. You can see how it's like pretty basic right now. And it's just not that, like, a model is going to get lost if I give it these instructions. I just know it will. So what I am going to do next is I'm going to switch over to Claude Code, run my plan error and review with this, and you should see like what happens with this plan. So one thing which I like is just like, you can see this like already spotted a bunch of stuff that may have come up here. Like AL tool is available locally, but it's been deprecated. Which one do you like? It's like finding out these issues sort of before it started the task of work. And the models like sort of like always want to run and produce code. So it's kind of nice that I can like figure out which one it wants to use. Like again, plan didn't mention any of these things, and like a lot of people take for granted that the plan tool is just going to do everything, which is like often just doesn't have enough depth. Like a lot of people don't spend enough time basically like in this planning stage or like figuring this out. Okay, one step that I like here is that I can get like a second opinion. So I'm in Claude Code right now, and now I can go ask and get a second opinion. I find this to be like super useful. It's going to call Codex. What it will do is it's now going to like call Codex. Okay, so Codex came back and had some feedback, I guess. Like I find just like having a referential check on the planning phase to be like very, very helpful. So one nice thing that this review does is it generates some to-dos. So it like adds deferred work that can be done later in the code base for me to go tackle, which I think is just like a really nice best practice. So like as it asked the questions, it found like some things that I deferred that I might want to review later that might be like actually shallower tasks that I want to take on later. You can see that. So now it's added like more to this. Like, so it's done some refinements. It added architectural decisions. It added some a helper here. It had some diagram, some other things that I will need to go do with GitHub. It adds some information about what exists, some failure modes, and just overall, just like a much easier way to like. It seems to have added a bunch more quality to this that like I may have saved myself basically some more time in this review stage, which is why I like to use it. Okay, now that we have this set up, I am going to go and so I'm just going to run this thing now to make sure that and get it going. So you can see this updated and went through these things. So now it's like made some changes. It took 45 minutes to sort of work through this. I can get some of them to work for a much longer period of time. And sometimes I might chain these things together. We'll talk about that in a sec. But now we can move this over into the review section. And here we're going to do our critique first. Okay, so this is like this critique skill. It will dispatch basically a bunch of subagents to go do some work here. So it's like figures out, looks at the diff, finds the local path, does some like tiered detection. It'll read the files. First it does recon. These are specialized agents. So it's like, look, I need like a style agent, architecture agent, security agent, and testing agent. Phase 2, it runs into like synthesis. So it dispatches a single synthesis agent. Artifact template. Then it will go through logging to make sure we have a logging, and then like give me some like critique, and then like gives me a verdict. I find like when you give models like this like thing, it like really helps of whether it like should like rework it, whether it's ready to go. I've personally found this helpful. Yeah, and then I give it some rules. And so this is now going to run. Sometimes I find the critique can take longer than the execution, but I think this just like really helps. All right, so you can see here that we now have successfully got some critique here. It's told us to ship it. It's like documented like this artifact here. This basically tells us that it's good to go, and it tells us some like things that we might want to focus on, and it's ready to ship. Then I can just run this release train, move it into the release train. I'm just going to push this branch, open the PR, and it's going to go merge it now into this PR stage. And then I should get this PR basically for me to go review. And I think the challenge that people have is no matter what your schedule looks like, maybe it looks something like this, that even if you're running these multiple agents like I just went through, it's really difficult to like manage this out. So like you are in this state where, let's say I run like 6 or 7 agents during the day, and I get 7 of them. Maybe I could parallelize this and get to like 30 or more. You're still cut with this time where like some of them have like sort of finished work, and there's always this need to just like keep them going. It impacts your family time where maybe you can't like babysit these things like constantly, which is a huge problem. So it means that like work sort of spills into this like 10, 11 midnight period of time. And there's just people that are just like, that like are getting some of their best work done during this period of time. So people are, I think, spending like more of their time actually in this window trying to get things done. Which then means that D1 kicks off here. Where I'm going with this is that I think there's like a better way to do this. So here's a look at like what I think this should actually look like. So one path forward, I think, to fix some of this is basically to maybe rethink the hours that we work and use basically the time at 5 p.m. and 10 p.m. to write plans, and do this like plan review. Then basically use the night for these like long-standing execution tasks. So like these may span like 6 to 12 hours. Use the morning to do basically high leverage strategic work, which would be in these reviews. You can kick some smaller tasks off during the day and then have these periods of the day where you're just like working on these more shallow tasks. So I'll call this like S2. You may even be able to get some of these and move them up. So, during the morning, during this time, 2 of these shallow tasks out. S4 takes place here now. You can parallelize this a little bit too. So let's say you can get like 3 plans out in an hour. Let's say you can get 4 of these things going. This is P3, P4. And then you end up in this space, I think in this world where you really need some more time to do reviews. I hope this makes some sense to you. Basically, I'm advocating that like the day needs to change, I think, to support this model where you don't spend a significant proportion of your day feeding the models with some of the patterns that I mentioned here. Like if you don't, let's assume like you don't go through this plan review process, you just get far less work done if you're just in this mode of fix. Like I think it's like pretty mentally exhausting to try and run through this. And if you're in this type of world, like you're also sort of reaching diminishing returns because you're so reliant on your workday being kicking things off in the morning. Have this weird portion of the day where, during this period of your day is probably the most productive. So you have this window of time at 3 o'clock when you're most productive. If you look at company and if you look at some PRs in companies and when they're committed, I would guess that 3 p.m. is the time when the most PRs take place. So, and there's like this block of time that people are probably more productive, like this 3 or 4 o'clock time. And it's not necessarily the most productive. Let's say you get to 4 o'clock, you've like got some PRs out, they're already merged. Then you're like left with trying to cram some of these things in again in this window. What I'm suggesting is sort of something like this, where you have different blocks of time. Start your day in sort of review mode, reviewing the things that happened overnight. You might want to kick off some shallow type work in Linear or other tools like that. I showed an example of Symfony and how to use that last time, and that was super useful. All of my shallow tasks just go through that process. Work does happen in between these times. You can plan a bunch more in here. There might be more shallow work that takes place in this agent execution. This would probably be just work. But like what I'm advocating for is the workday is sort of changing, where you have these blocks of time of doing more planning type work, which I think is where the people are more valuable in this chain. You just saw when I created a plan, the plan could have gone anywhere without some sort of steering. So reviewing the plan and spending more time in planning is sort of what I would take away from this. I am obviously still learning about how to figure this out. Part of the challenge that I have is that I'm getting this 10, 11 p.m. window and I just have this thirst for just kicking more things off. It sort of feels like you're not working hard enough if you're not kicking things off and having some stuff work during the night. Probably need to think more about this. Hopefully this is useful if you're on the AI slot machine and you're looking for some ways to sort of, I guess, think through how you might change the way that you work. I was inspired by, as you can tell, by Camille here, who helped, I think, just like show me some of this work around stuff that he was doing during the night. I thought it was like just a really interesting way to think about how to structure a workday, and also just how to incorporate some of the things that I've already been doing over here with the skills that I showed earlier. All right, with that, if you spent any time watching this, I really, really appreciate it. If you have feedback, if you have ideas, if you have other things that you think I should try, please do let me know. And with that, Be well. Thank you.